Well, our next guests spent almost 15 years trying to keep their relationship alive through prison walls. Back in 2006, Danielle Williams had a young daughter and was pregnant with a son when her now husband Keith was sentenced to 22 years jail for drug conspiracy, money laundering and gun possession. After years of struggling with little contact as well as stress and financial problems, the pair was reunited on the outside early last year. Now Danielle is on a mission to tell her side of the story and expose the real lives of prison wives. Danielle and Keith Williams join us now from their home in Alabama. It's great to see you both. Thank you so much for joining us and sharing your story today.
Thank you for having us.
Danielle, Keith was sent to prison when you were 5 months pregnant with your son, Kendall. You must have been angry with Keith on some level for leaving you to raise the kids on your own. Or how did you react?
Oh yeah, I was hurt, angry, sad, depressed, every emotion there was to feel. I probably felt it, except for happy. So yeah, I was pretty angry with him, and just had to learn how to accept it eventually and decide if I was going to stay through the sentence. And you know, I made the decision to stick it out, and that's what we did.
Keith, 22 years for drug conspiracy, gun possession, money laundering. In Australia, you literally get less for murder. What was running through your head when that sentence was handed down? You must have thought your whole life was disappearing and you'd lost your family as well. Did you think Danielle and the kids would leave you?
Honestly, when I first got handed down my sentence, it was kind of like the world was just at a standstill. The judge actually looked like he was about a football field away. Everything just seemed slow. So at the time I was being sentenced, I was just in complete distraught, not really understanding to my full capacity how much prison time I had been sentenced to. Yes, losing my family was one of the factors that weighed in on me tremendously for quite some time, because that's a very hard pill for all of us to swallow, and it's a hardship for something to be placed on someone, as far as, you know, staying with you during those trying times.
Danielle, your heart was breaking on the outside. Was there ever a point where you thought, I can't do this, I can't wait 22 years for this man, I need to move on with my life?
I knew I loved Keith. I felt like if something would, I honestly had hope, because I wasn't familiar with the state sentencing in the U.S. and the federal. So I actually had hope that, yes, he was going to get out the entire time. And I did not expect him to do that time. And the more I got familiar with the Senate, the system, it's like federal does 85% of their time. And like you said, over here, that's, you know, a longer sentence than people that commit murder get. So when I realized, you know, okay, this is it, he is doing that time, I made my decision. I prayed about it, made my decision, and I decided to stay.
And that faith kept you in the relationship. In fact, in 2012, you decided to marry behind bars. What was your big day like? I mean, it's not something you dream about, I suppose, as a little girl getting married behind bars. What did you wear? Who could come to your ceremony? How did it actually work?
To my surprise, when I showed up at the prison, there was about 5 more brides there, and they were actually in a bridal gown.
Wow.
You know,
Wow.
I had on a dress, a nice dress that I picked out, and I still wasn't allowed to wear that to the back, so I had to just go in traditional clothes.
Did you feel cheated in a way? I mean, there was no honeymoon, there was no wedding night where the two of you got to spend the night together. Was that hard to leave after exchanging those vows and making it official and then having to drive hours home?
The hardest thing for me at that point was we were the first out of the group to get married. So they had us in the visitation room, and they pulled us to a little room and did the ceremony. And then we had a few minutes to ourselves where we could just sit and talk. And we left. And it wasn't until we got back home, my husband called me and he said, guess what? They started giving way more time. You could have stayed, you know. So that was the most hurtful part. But I can't say that I just have really felt cheated, because it's more about the marriage than the wedding for me. So I'm wanting the marriage to last. I mean, of course, I wouldn't mind one day, you know, because every now and then I will have the thought, if I'm invited to a wedding or if I see a bride, I never had a wedding, a formal wedding. But yeah, I'm more into the marriage. I want the marriage to work.
Think of the money you saved, Danielle. Think of all that money you saved.
All the money you saved on catering.
Yeah.
Danielle and Keith, how do you stay married and keep a marriage alive when one of you is locked up? I mean, that was in 2012. You spent the next 7 years married to someone in prison. How do you stay in contact? How often do you get to see the person? Are you able to touch on normal visitation days and have some just sort of basic intimacy? How does it work?
Well, communication, number one.
God.
And God. Well, God, number one, communication, yes. Like you said, I kept the faith. One thing, I did not believe that my husband was going to do all that time. I continued to speak it. People thought I was insane when they would be like, okay, his sentence is 22 and a half years. And I'm like, well, he's not going to do all that time, you know. But with communication, that's one thing we learned how to communicate actually better, because that's all we had. So we had the phone calls.
Yeah, a lot of writing.
A lot of letter writing.
That's a different form of intimacy.
Yeah.
Visitation, there are touch visits. You know, they have some policies in order. But when you first get there, you can hug your wife. You can give her a kiss in the beginning and at the end of the visit. Some facilities, she can sit beside you. Some facilities, they make her sit across from you. It's basically whatever that particular prison's policy is, because even though it's Federal Bureau of Prisons, each prison has different policies, and that could come based on the custody level of the prison, from high, medium, low security, and also camp status prisons. So they vary just depending on that institution.
Gotcha.
Yes, we were like so excited when he finally got to camp level, because we were actually able, and that was actually the latter part, like the 14th year,
Yeah.
I guess you could say.
My last 5 months.
Your last 5 months, yeah. He made it to camp status, and that was the most relaxed the visit had been, and we could actually get up, walk to the vending machine, walk outside. You just would have thought, I don't know, like we hit the lottery when we were able to sit outside.
Wow.
And sit on the bench and talk. You know, that was the most amazing feeling.
Given all you two have been through, the trials, the tribulations, some might argue that your marriage is probably stronger than most. You, Danielle, have started up a support group for prison wives. What's your best piece of advice for women who are trying to maintain a relationship with someone behind bars?
My best piece of advice is don't lose yourself. I see a lot of females that come in and they're hurt, they're depressed, and they don't want to shake it. You can't stay in that mind frame. If you stay in that mind frame, it's not going to work. So my advice, like I said, faith is what got me through. I try to instill that faith is what, can help. Also, you have to take time for yourself, because if you do not take time for yourself, it will overwhelm you.
Well done, you two. We're glad that life is going so well on the outside. It's a beautiful story. Best of luck for the future.